This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
My brother Jamal, what I telling you this so many times, brother Jamal. You cannot go out with only Asian men. You have to have diversity, brother Jamal, diversity. The white women need to be out with you, especially brother Jamal, especially in South Chariton. You see, brother Jamal, in the English community, brother Jamal, the white women vote for themselves. No man taking postal vote to the mosque and handing over to the imam. No. In the English community, brother Jamal, the women do not just stay in the kitchen and cooking you the samosa. No, brother Jamal, they're voting for themselves. So what are you doing, brother Jamal? What are you doing? Only going out with the Asian brothers. No, brother Jamal. This no win you election. Remember Hartlepool, brother Jamal. No cartel there. No postal vote there, brother Jamal. And you get losing, big losing, brother Jamal. And you are going to lose also, brother Jamal, in Chariton if you carry on like this, going out on doors and knocking on doors only with the Asian men, brother Jamal. Tut, brother Jamal.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening. It is Sunday the 3rd of October. We're into autumn well and proper. My name is Raja Mia. This is a Recusant 9 transmission. These are the things that they are desperately trying to ban. And that was my Asian accent. Now, I have to share with you the origins of my Asian accent. It started when I was working behind a bar in a restaurant, about 13 years old, and every bloke that had come in for his pint of Thwaites bitter would ask me where I'd learnt my English from and didn't I speak it so well. And so I just what I ended up doing was cultivating an authentic Asian accent, was what I thought was an authentic Asian accent, to circumnavigate the stupid conversations I'd have every week about, oh, didn't I speak English so well? So, yes, Julie, I think you would be better at doing that accent than I. Oh, well. But in all seriousness, Jim McMahon was in control of the Labour Party campaign, I think in Hartlepool, where he got tonked. And what he found out in Hartlepool, that the tactics of Coldhurst, St Mary's, Medlock Vale and Wernerth and North Chadderton do not work in other places. And particularly in a town such as ours, you can't go out campaigning with almost exclusively a group of Muslim Asian men. Not a single white woman in your campaign team. You can't do that. You cannot do that. Oh, sorry. I'm just reading the stragglers who are joining us that I need to message with a link. Mark, you're on live if that's what you intended to be. Mark?
Sorry, Roger. I've no link at all.
The link's on the Facebook page, and if you just go onto the normal YouTube channel, that's where the link is as well. I think Mark's now found the link. No, in all seriousness, you can't do that. In a town like ours, you cannot go out campaigning like that. But the truth is, they've been going out campaigning like this for such a long time, and they've never been pulled up on it, and they've got away with it. So what difference does it make now? It's a hard habit to break. But to do that in Chadderton South, to go out with almost an exclusive group of Asian men from North Chadderton and Coldhurst, the OBA cartel heartland, where Brother Jamal relies on his core block vote, and take them into Chadderton South. It's akin to Sean Fielding having his girlfriend hold up his torn underpants and share her sexual fantasies just after he was forced to announce a grooming gang inquiry. It's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. I'm not sure who this person is, but I am just going to ban them, because I trust my instincts. That Sally Highland, or whatever her name is, got banned on the Recusant 9 page this week, and I rarely ban people, but I could tell she was up to mischief, and yes, she was up to mischief. Now, this is a woman who came to me and claimed I was a traitor to my own kind. Yes, a white woman, privileged white woman, coming along and posting I was a traitor to my own kind. Of course, my own kind is the people of my townsfolk, all of you who are here joining me this evening. If you can, please like the page, like the stream, whatever it's called on YouTube. share the post if you can, and buy me a samosa. I've updated it from a buy me a coffee to buy me a samosa. So if you can, please do that. We'll get on with this evening's transmission, I think, and let me start by bringing up the images I want for today. So there you go. That was Jim with AROOJ, and you can see almost exclusively Asian men, and Ruji, the coldest Asian woman councillor, was there as well, but almost exclusively Asian men from Coldust and North Chadderton. So the OBA cartel have expanded from Coldust into North Chadderton. The takeover of North Chadderton is all but complete, and they are flexing their muscles. They are flexing their muscles and feel that with Brother Jamal they can go into Chadderton South and campaign and win votes. And last week I shared this image with you, and it was in St. James, where Debbie Kashmir had taken the same OBA cartel along with some Royton councillors out into St. James's ward, desperate to try and get some votes because they took a hammering in a traditional white working class area, and Beth Sharps, a local girl, had won as a conservative. Unheard of. The working classes in Durka and Shulver had gone en masse and voted Conservatives. So Debbie, very much aware that she needs at least some white working class votes in an upcoming general election, has brought the Asian councillors and the Royton councillors as backup. And I pulled her on it. So lo and behold, in the midweek, they went out with a more diverse bunch. They had some women with them. They had some Asian women with them as well. And they had some local candidates with them. So local councillors with them. But this is where it gets interesting. That's Ginny Alexander there. And behind her is Hewitt. Double Agent Hewitt, I call him. Hewitt actually was involved in the setting up of Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth, believe it or not. But what she's done there, what Debbie's done there, is she's gone out, sent them out into St. James's, and brought the Pakistani councillors along with her because they're desperate for the small Asian vote around there. But the person I want to draw attention to, and this is how outrageous this Labour-run administration in Oldham is this disgraceful white-haired woman there. The current mayor from Alexander Ward, Jenny Harrison. Now, why I'm picking on Jenny Harrison, and I can't stand a woman, so I need little excuse to pick on a woman who enjoys the online company of the malicious blogger Neil Wilby. Why I'm picking on Jenny Harrison is because Jenny Harrison, in the role of mayor, she's meant to be politically neutral. And if you're politically neutral, You're not meant to be out campaigning. It comes with the role of mayor. When you become a mayor, you're politically neutral and you're not meant to be out campaigning. But lo and behold, there she is, out campaigning. So they're desperate. Of that, there is no doubt. They are absolutely desperate. But for this Labour Party run council, who by the way have the council chief executive has already admitted to her role in rigging an election, regardless of whether it goes to court or not. I have it in black and white. She has admitted to what her council did. So when they go that far, it shouldn't surprise anyone that they're prepared to do this. In Chadderton, they've got this Clean Up Oldham campaign. You've all seen it. Although I think what they want to clean up and what the rest of us want to clean up are two different things. And the Tories have picked up on it. The Conservatives have picked up on it. They are cleaning Chadderton North, or North Chadderton and Chadderton Central, this side of Christmas. And where AROOJ SHAH is up for re-election in Chadderton South, the council has conveniently arranged for the clean-up of that area so she can get some good publicity shots and maybe a bit of a bounce, a vote bounce, just before the election. This is what rotten councils do. This is the behaviour of rotten councils. No, sack her, mate. This is a council that hides convicted child sex offenders amongst them. So no one's going to sack Jenny Harrison anymore than they are going to hold Jim McMahon to account for repeatedly campaigning in a misogynistic manner where he panders to the prejudices of Asian men and discriminates against women, including white women. Now he does that in Coldust, Werneth, Medlock Vale, because of the high proportion of postal votes, and that these postal votes too often are not filled in by women and are just collected by the men and harvested accordingly. And whilst all of the things have been going on in our town, and I did an emergency transmission on Tuesday, I think, and when I last checked, nearly 5,000 people, well actually over 5,000 people had viewed it between Facebook and YouTube. So whilst criminals are ramming cars into each other and chasing each other with machetes, whilst a poor bloke has to defend his girlfriend in broad daylight, fending off 6 Asian mobsters, where the street patrols, the vigilante street patrols have started. Fresh from his disastrous, or the disastrous Labour Party conference, where they spent so much time arguing the difference between what made a man and a woman and what biological parts existed in reality and what they wanted to exist. McMahon came to Oldham and realised that after his firework display, one of the most powerful men in the country had now got to talk about HMOs. And let me bring up the article. You can see it here. MP calls for action over HMO concerns in Oldham. Now the problem with McMahon calling for action is that he was responsible for signing off agreements with the Home Office through which his council financially benefited, that attracted a demographic to this town that would live in these slum-like buildings. He was responsible for promoting the town as a place of cheap labour. And I don't know where he's been, but he was also responsible, or his party was responsible in Oldham. AROOJ was most definitely involved in entering into a partnership with a HMO provider who, even though they were a new company, donated hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of PPE equipment and somehow ended up owning the weavers in SHAH that, despite local objection, was pushed through as another HMO. And if you look into the backgrounds of many of the companies that own these HMOs, a significant number of them are Asian businessmen with clear links to the Labour Party in Oldham. Let's get Mark on. Good evening, Mark. How are you?
I'm very good, Roger. Yourself?
Fine, thanks, Mark. I'm just trying to fix this so I can see you on my screen. I don't know what's happened, but something usually happens, but I will get you on. Just give me 1 second. There you go. You're on. Mark.
Hello.
I'm happy with the 2-2, mate. I'll tell you why. I don't know how James Milner stayed on, but I'm all right with that.
I think we'll agree to disagree, if I'm honest. But we'll live to fight another day, both of us, won't we?
Come on, Mark. Tell me about this nonsense. The Weavers, Mark. The Weavers, right? They pushed it through, haven't they, Mark?
As you're aware, Raj, you're a very good source of information, and obviously you've made me aware of what's been going on at the parish council recently. And I think it's absolutely shocking that our local councillors and the parish council put up such a poor response to overwhelming criticism to this poverty farm.
That's what they are, aren't they, Mike? That's what they are.
Yeah,
They're poverty farms, aren't they? Yeah.
Absolutely. We can all play on our heartstrings, but the fact is, these are profit-making schemes, and they only make profit when poverty exists. And the thing is, they're like workhouses in the Victorian times. Once they become accepted, they become the norm. Ultimately, they will just turn town centres into open prisons. And I really feel for the people who were celled up in these places, because they've obviously, in most cases, got very complex needs. Well, no matter what political party you support, there is an underfunding in social care. There's an underfunding in social need. There's an underfunding which, exists. Nobody can doubt that. And I think the thing is, these are cheap alternatives, and it suits everyone. It suits Oldham Council because they pay less. It suits their friends who own these places because they make a profit.
They are the friends who own these places.
Yeah, exactly. The only people it doesn't suit are the poor individuals who will be, like I say, imprisoned in these places with no hope of benefiting themselves or any sort of platform to get out of them, because they don't want you to leave. They don't want you to leave.
And with the greatest of respect, Mark, it also does not benefit the community that finds itself in the midst of this, because none of us have prejudices, and we don't want to come across as having prejudices, but we can clearly see that the position these people are put in is completely unsuitable. The support networks around them do not exist.
Exactly.
And the fallout, you wouldn't want near your own house. So why are we having it in SHAH?
Why
are they allowing it in SHAH?
Well, it's absolutely heartbreaking for the the people who live in the vicinity, because it is a residential area. Okay, at one time we had pubs in residential areas. That seems to be the case, but the damaging effect this will have on the local community. Now, one thing I want to highlight here is the parish council of SHAH. Okay, now bearing in mind, this is a profit-making venture, i.e. a business. The parish council have set up a working group
Mark, let me bring up some documents, because I like to get some documents when I view on, because I like the shock on your face. So I couldn't believe what I was reading, right? So like you say, the parish council, have set up a working group to aid this private sector money-making venture.
Yeah.
All right, and let me bring up the screen, Mark. You'll
it's going to be 3-2 in a minute, aren't you? You're going to go for the winner here, I think. But
there you go. Let me just get rid of that. Oh, I've got rid of the wrong one. I'll just bring it up, Mark, so you can see it on your. You can see it yourself, and make of it what you want. It is on. Just give me 1 second. I will get there. There you go. That's where it is. That's why I want you to read. Can you see that? I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you, Mark.
I can, yeah.
Right. New supported accommodation at 70 to 74 Milne Road, SHAH. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a rumour, but now it's a fact.
A working group to be established to consider appropriate actions to support of this proposal. The working group will include the owners and operators of the new facility, local residents, and Oldham Adult Social Services.
This is a slap in the face for the residents of SHAH. If anybody owns a business in SHAH, okay, who pay rates, who've had all the difficulty through COVID, who've had absolutely no support from the parish council or associated ward councils at OMBC, it's absolutely disgusting. Where a proposal that is going to, in all honesty, take the town down a level, is getting...
But they've done it off the back of it. An OMBC PowerPoint presentation. There was an OMBC PowerPoint presentation they all looked at before they agreed to support, with council taxpayers' resources, a private money-making venture that had already been exposed for its cosy relationships with a number of Asian councillors. And I'm sorry, Mark, I know you're not racist, and you know I'm not racist, but there comes a point where you understand why people get to the place they get to, which I want to move you along, Mark. Now, I'm not sure if Brother Jamal is involved, but I'm hearing rumours of a new mosque in SHAH. I might be going to this new mosque in SHAH, Mark, but my issue with it isn't a new mosque in SHAH. My issue is the secrecy of a new mosque in SHAH. Now tell me, what do you know about that? What do you know about that?
It's like I say, the lack of transparency and the lack of information, because everybody's aware of what's going on. But the problem is, without transparency and honesty, then that will breed hatred. It will breed negativity, and that's what's not coming out from the parish council or our councillors in terms of St Paul's Methodist, which in itself is a crime. What they did to the building, and you know the £300,000 of taxpayers' money to knock a building down or make safe, how they dressed it up. That building could have been so many things. The land was sold cheap.
The rumours, isn't there, Mark? There's a pattern here, isn't there?
There's a pattern, and the fact of the matter is, unless there's an open and honest discussion, which there needs to be. I mean, people have needs and wants. Nobody's saying people can't have venues to worship or.
Oh no one is.
But
Mark.
If things are being done in a clandestine approach, then straight away it brings barriers. It doesn't breed cohesion, does it?
Mark, what I said all along to my friends in Coldhurst is, I am a supporter of places of worship. I think in a democratic society, we all should be allowed to worship as we see fit, as long as it fits in with the laws of the land. So I don't care if you're interested in a mosque or a synagogue or a temple or a church. What I object to, Mark, is the spending of taxpayers' money in the precursor to these buildings or these plots of land being sold at discount rates, and all of it being hidden in such a way before the deal is done. That's what I object to, and I think that's what most of us object to, Mark.
Nobody, in terms of the parish council or the ward councillors, are brave enough or honest enough to talk about this subject. So it'll get kicked down the street till planning permission goes in. It may do, it may not. It won't be a change of it won't be a change of use because it's already designated as a place of worship, I imagine. Yeah. So this will just build resentment rather than having a proper, honest consultation with people. It's just going to, like I say, it's just going to put a lot of fire in a lot of people's bellies, and like Raja, when that happens, hatred comes out, and the wrong type of people jump on that, and then problems occur thereafter.
And in SHAH, I mean, I've spent time in SHAH, like I've shared with you in the past. In fact, I went to visit a friend of mine in SHAH over the summer, and I had a lovely walk over the tops. And I think you've got a good little town there with a lot of cohesion. People generally get on, and they're stirring it. And they're stirring it in such a way where at the election, the Labour Party put Maroof in there, so the Asian lad in there, from Wearmouth, to be the Labour Party candidate. And I saw his election campaign. He spent all his time with the Bangladeshi community in SHAH getting votes off of him. It's just... this is just divide and rule stupidity that is fanning the flames of division in a place that has relatively strong levels of cohesion.
Definitely. The main thing I come across on the doorstep, and, when I'm talking to people regularly in SHAH, there's no undertones of racism or anything like that. We're just not that sort of people. I think the problem is we just don't feel we're getting a fair deal.
So then I say to you this, okay? And I'm You know, I grew up in the inner areas of Oldham, I think is how they describe them now, the inner wards or whatever it is. And I never understood why Saddleworth had a parish council and why SHAH had a parish council. And I looked on, as a working class Asian lad, I looked on and I looked up towards Saddleworth and I looked up towards SHAH and I thought, is it because these people are snobbier than us? They think they deserve more than us. Seriously, you know, when I looked at it, I said, why have you got a parish council? Why has Saddleworth got a parish council? And then, sorry, Mark, and then I stopped thinking of it as an inequality when I found out that you lot were paying hundreds of thousands of pounds for the pleasure. So yeah.
It's an executive club. It's a liberal executive club where they can sit round and pontificate how superior they are over everyone else. It's not reflective. It doesn't reflect the people of SHAH. It doesn't share. It doesn't have any aims, any goals. It's just a club. And that's the real tragedy here, because it could be so much more. You just think of the ideas you could have with that. You know, if you've got £100,000 a year coming in, you could set up a credit union, you could support local businesses, you could get citizens advice in once a month for free advice for the residents. All these things are called ideas. But all they want to do is sit on committees and hand out £50 cheques every now and again.
So this is the parish council that is was done in a secret report that we unearthed for financial impropriety. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's eye-watering, some of the expenditure. You know, 10, 12 grand on a CCTV system, £9,000 to Groundwork Trust to do a bit of litter picking. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, they're just funding them.
You've got a real opportunity here to engage with the people of SHAH and Crompton, you know, to try and tune into their needs and wants. Not paying 300 quid for a Christmas tree or £3.5 grand for nice flowery baskets to Oldham Council. You know, it's a crime. I'd view it as a crime. And as you see how I got, thanks to you, Raj, you exposed their deviance, I'd say, and their dishonesty.
It's dishonest. I think it's dishonest.
It's water off a duck's back to them. It's absolute water off a duck's back. They just don't care, because when they look at people like me, just like they look at the rest of people of SHAH, they're above us.
Yeah.
You know, it's so condescending. They're so stale. It was the Liberals who set that up in the late 80s. I think it was 87 they set the parish council up. And I'm not being... So you work out what they've had. Over 1 million, 2 million, who knows? Yeah. And they've done nothing. They've done nothing. And yet you live in a place in SHAH. We've got a private school. We've got wealthy houses. We've got money in the town. And you walk down that Market Street and it's like the Wild West, because I'm getting so many reports from people contacting me about antisocial behaviour, drug dealing on the dealing on the streets.
My friends tell me you've got a drugs problem in SHAH.
An open drugs problem. Yeah. And an open drugs problem to the extent that it's not a secret.
So come on, Mark, how are you going to do it? Are you going to phone Irish me up and invite him to SHAH?
Well, I don't know. It'd probably keep the prices down, wouldn't it? But I don't know about anything else. But what can we do as residents? We pay in. We want return on our investment. Now, we don't want it all, because we accept it's a shared pot. But when you look at all the amenities we've lost, the baths, the doctors is effectively a leaking porta cabin. The market's a car park. The life and soul of the town is just being sucked out to the point where we'll get to a point and there won't be a future. Now, I'm a strong believer there is, and I think we just need to have a fresh approach.
And the future isn't carrying on as we have done for the last 20 years, is it? Because that's destroyed your town. The last 20 years has destroyed SHAH.
It's absolutely. You drive into SHAH and, I mean, they've mowed the big lamp roundabout so they've made a bit of an effort. And you look at that rock that says "Welcome to," and you think that cost 25 grand. And you look at it, and it just and then you come in and you see what it is, and then you've got all these sites on Facebook where remember Shaw in the past and all this, and sort of praying to the good old days or whatnot. But the people, the money's there, the people are there, and I just think it's time. We've got to come together. We've got to take control of that parish council. Which we will. We only need to get 7 or 8 people elected as independents, and then we can write our own script. But that won't be our own script. That'll be in conjunction with consultation with the people of SHAH, because that is ultimately the aim, is to engage with the public, find out what they want from their town centre, find out what they want from their parish council, find out what they want doing with their money. And I think that would be a massive step forward.
They've ruined it, mate. They've just leached it. They've looked at the welfare and leached, and then they've helped destroy the town centre. I remember the stupid one-way scheme that they brought in, and
well, it costs £25,000 to put in that one, and £25,000 to put back. I remember that one, and yeah, that's I just, like I say, I never.
Is it what is it? Is it the Asda at the back? It's just a. You know what? You've got yourself a problem, and what would ordinarily happen, Mark, in a community such as yours, is the council would hold its hands up. In this case, the parish council, because it has a more locally driven agenda, technically, yeah. Mm-hmm. And what it would do, or what it should do, is have a massive consultation process. Yeah. With the people of SHAH to say, this is where we find ourselves, what do we want and how do we get there? But these people don't want that, because to do that, they've got to work in partnership with the people of the town instead of rule down,
Yeah, it is. It's a fiefdom. That's how I describe it. I would describe it. Like I say, you don't tell people what they want, you ask them. And if you engage with the public, so for example, if you surveyed the population of SHAH and Crompton, and you found out 2,000 people would have a meal, a decent restaurant once a month or whatever, you've got you've got information there for a business plan, haven't you? And you bring in investment.
They're not interested.
No, they're not. They're not. They're just, like I say, they're just interested
in taking out. I mean, this was the exchange, Mark. The council, the Labour-run council, were interested in extracting as much as possible in terms of revenue from the people of SHAH, because you all know, if you look at the council tax payment rates, you guys pay your council tax. You're not one of those areas where you're not paying. Yeah, you have very little in terms of outgoings, because people work and the needs were, you took care of yourselves, and in exchange for that leeching, they gave Howard Sykes and his mates a parish council to distract and divert themselves with, and say, there you go, you can have this parish council whilst we have this. Now, even that parish council, I mean, I find this uncomfortable. It's full is the wrong term, but there's too many for me of councillors and their wives, or councillors and their husbands and their partners. It doesn't look healthy from the outside, Mark.
Every single one of them are members of the Liberal Democrats, okay? And I got to, like, if just when I tried joining through co-option as an independent, I was told that party allegiance, I was told by the parish council clerk that party allegiances didn't exist. Everyone was independent. And he said it was a coincidence, a mere coincidence, that they all happened to be Liberal Democrats. Well, and then the other two just happened to be Liberal Democrats. And like you say, no, there are there's 8,000 votes in SHAH and Crompton. 1,000 of them vote Liberal Democrat. I've never met one of them, but the 1,000 vote for them. But there's another 6,000 who don't. So how can them 14 people be representative of the people of SHAH?
Well, it
And it's up
isn't.
to
They're not. Are they?
no,
They're
it
not,
isn't.
They're not.
And it's up to the people of SHAH, through myself, to give us that wake-up call and say, look, this is... Because the reason they've got away with it, nobody cares, nobody knows.
You know, there's nothing stopping you from forcing a referendum and abolishing the parish council. You know, there's nothing stopping you from doing that.
We don't want to... As far as I'm concerned, at this, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the parish council and the opportunities there to actually serve the people of SHAH are there. And I think...
So let me give you this as an example, okay? And it's the weavers. I'll use the weavers, yeah?
Yeah.
The parish council engaged with the community, and even if once they'd voiced their objections, even after voicing their objections, you know, the weavers was forced through, yeah? Yeah. Right. So they actually have no real say over planning, and planning's one of the main
we accept
parish
that,
councils, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you had these neighbourhood forums, which AROOJ made reference to in the last council meeting, said they were happening, and I put those minutes up where, you know, the last neighbourhood forum lasted for 10 minutes, you know, and that's after Brian Hoban from Failsworth Independence complained, because he was, you know, they clearly see the neighbourhood forums as a mechanism through which local democracy and local decision making can really be embedded in a community. The neighbourhood forums, these neighbourhood panels, have statutory powers. They have powers over planning that the parish councils do not. You know, I just clear up, because it's a facade of democracy. These parish councils, they're a facade.
Well, it's not an either or, is it?
They're a bribe, aren't they? They're a bribe. Yeah. Here's $100 grand. Go and play in that corner and don't bother us. They did the same in Saddleworth. They've done the same in SHAH. And one of the reasons they've done that, and I say this with the utmost respect to the parts of the town where I came from, is that, you know, the more affluent and the more, I won't say intelligent, but the more, you know, au fait with how local democracy works, those people lived in those areas. They live in Saddleworth, they live in SHAH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. But,
so
you know...
What are your plans? Are you going to stand this year? Is the other thing I was going to ask, because you've got an event tomorrow, haven't you? So tell me more about this event.
Yeah. So, as part of Oldham and Saddleworth, our strategy is to get our message heard more and to be more visible. I think, I think it was last week I'd been involved. It was like my year anniversary of being involved, and so much has happened in that year, you know, including an election, which was successful for me because it got my name out there, and the genie's out of the bottle, so the message is spreading. But tomorrow night, from 7:45 onwards, we'll be in SHAH. We'll be at the cart shaft, which is just behind the old Royal Bank of Scotland, currently with no roof on, with planning permission for an HMO. But we'll be there from 7:30 on. And what we want you to do is we want you to come down, meet us, ask us what you want. But more than that, we want to listen. Because these things, the problems that we're having in SHAH are not unique. You know, they're concentric in many ways in terms of what happening in other areas. Now, in terms of the parish council, next year in 2023, not next year yet, 2023, the parish council, I'll be encouraging for as many people to stand as independent as possible. Not as proud of Oldham and Saddleworth, not as Labour, not as Conservative, just independent people, because I think that's the way...
Just as local townsfolk who want to make a difference. Rise above the politics. Rise above the politics. Yeah.
Exactly. The strength we're proud of Oldham and Saddleworth, and I'm supporters of the Failsworth Independent Party, but I think the biggest strength with proud of Oldham and Saddleworth is we're not siloed to our own individual areas, although that's primarily our focal point, but we do have collective bargaining, and we can work together through other areas. I mean, I was very disappointed in terms of Brian Hoban agreeing with Oldham Council's planning to build on the green belt at the because he would maybe not do so much damage to Failsworth. I just don't think you can have that mindset, really. I think these such bigger issues affect all areas of Oldham, and I don't think divide and conquer.
Because that's what it is, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, and I think yeah. So that's why Pride of Oldham and South works for me. I think it works in other areas. Like I say, we are independent because we don't have a whip, and I think tomorrow night will be a great opportunity to come down and just get your voice heard. Just come and meet us, sign up to our newsletter, and spread the word, because we've gotten worried now. We've certainly in SHAH, and I know in other areas, we've got the Liberals worried. They can't take it for granted anymore. Howard Sykes took it for granted for 20 years. And nobody who I speak to says SHAH's a better place. It can only get worse, but we've got to take that opportunity to make it better. So, yeah, I'd encourage anyone to come down. My fellow candidates will be there. Paul Eric will be there as well. He's the party leader. He's the inspiration for setting it up. And just let your voice heard.
Okay.
And yeah,
Mark, before I let you go, I want to show you something, because you are a politician in the town. You stood, you got 600 votes. You're respected in SHAH. I want to show you this. What do you make of this? So this is off the back of Councillor Mark Wilkinson's car being stolen, as one car in a number of cars that were stolen in Failsworth last week. Yeah. And this is what the former leader of Oldham Council, Sean Fielding, who still has a role in the Labour Party, had to say.
I mean, it's disgraceful. I think if you had any doubt about Sean Fielding, or you ever wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, then I think you look at that and it tells you everything you need to know.
So he's responding to Neil Wilby first, who's a malicious blogger who's been harassing many of the townsfolk.
Yeah.
And he's encouraging criminality there, isn't he? Or he's endorsing it. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I think obviously he can't get over his own self-importance or bitterness, but I know people still within the Labour Party in Manchester and in Oldham, and they've washed their hands of him. He's finished. And Sean Fielding is history. The problem is, as the saying goes, you cut one head off the snake, another one grows. Because it's not the people. What do you make
of these vigilante street patrols? I've not asked you. What's your?
I think it's a very, very dangerous precedent, and I think what I find most disturbing is where you would look for clarity from law enforcement, from politicians on such a subject, an inflammatory subject. There's been absolutely none. So that basically gives a green light to anyone who wants to potentially take the law into their own hands.
Yeah.
And it's irrespective of the people involved in this particular joint venture, who let's face it, I've seen the wrong side of bars, I would say, more than the right side of them. I just think the premise of it is very, very disturbing, and I would, as any resident should do, seek to our local representatives, elected or otherwise, and ask them to come out and strongly condone it, which they won't. And I do not want to live in a town where it's up to individuals to decide what is a crime and what isn't, who to be punished, who to be stopped, who to be allowed to go about their business. Like I say, I mean, as it stands, from what I see, it's just a group of wannabes wearing high-vis vests with, and going round seeing people after they've been. But it's a very, very, very short step to being something far more sinister. Things like you would get in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, protection rackets, you know, that type of thing. And I don't expect to see it in SHAH yet, but I expect to see it at Durka, and Durka's not that far from SHAH. And I think what they'll start to do is they'll probably start to ride the trams, ride the bus, that type of thing. So yeah, it's very concerning.
Mark, thank you very, very much. We'll, I'm happy with the point, by the way. I know you wanted to win, but I think that shows where the ambition of both of our clubs. Listen, you enjoy yourself tomorrow. I'm sure plenty of people will turn out to meet you guys.
Thank you very much.
And you know where I am anytime. I just think you've got to do something about that parish council. It's a law unto itself. And
absolutely.
It's as corrupt an institution as is possible in this town, and it needs challenging. And you're doing it. And I think you're doing a great job. So thank you, Mark. Thanks for your time. Okay.
Pleasure as always, Roger. Take care.
Take care, Mark. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was marking. So what I've done here is put up a press release, I suppose. Greener and healthy approach to transport agreed by Oldham Council. And what they want to do, which is nice, I suppose. It is actually. It's to be applauded. If we all developed amnesia and forgot that several months ago their plans was to build the biggest incinerator in the town. So several months ago their plans was to build the biggest incinerator in the town. And now they're pushing. Remember, taller than the Civic Centre? Sean Fielding backed it. AROOJ and the other deputies sat there silently, so they clearly endorsed it. And now they've come up with a name, a brand for a greener and healthier approach to transport. I can't say whether it's sponsored by the mocktail bar or not. But they've decided to call this scheme Streets for All. So it's called Streets for All. And I'll bring it up and I'll go through it with you, because there's something interesting. I think there's something interesting in it that you probably need to see. Let me just bring it up so I can see it and you can see it. Okay. They want to make it easier for people to fit more physical activity into their daily lives and create safer streets for pedestrians and road users. Blah, 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 blah. And here we have it. Here we have it. We're working with local residents in Chadderton North and Westwood. So this is the new expanded capital of the cartels. It's moved from Westwood to Chadderton North, remember? The Chadderton Town Hall. McMahon now occupies. The Carnegie Library. The old swimming baths. That's now a wedding venue by friends of McMahon's. What they've got is an aspiration to spend money in Westwood and Chadderton North. And so if you've seen me a few months ago, I walked around the area, so it's not the biggest area. It's out of focus though, sorry, so I will put it up full so you have a look there. And what they've got, I mean, I'll read it you. You don't need to, I'll read it you. What they want to do is working with local residents in Chadderton North and Westwood to design Oldham's first active neighbourhood scheme to make it easier for them to get around their local area on foot and by bike. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I walked around that entire neighbourhood a few months ago. How hard is it to walk around that neighbourhood on foot? What's happened? Why can't people walk around that neighbourhood on foot? I'm reading their own words. This is just another excuse to siphon public funds towards the cartels. They want to improve how people walk around that neighbourhood. The Westwood tram station on Middleton Road. You walk down to the junction, you turn right, you end up near Tesco. Last I looked, there were pavements there. You carry on straight down, you get to Chadderton Town Hall. You do a right along Victoria Street. And you can come out near the Audi garage and do a loop back up towards Chadderton Way. With lots of interconnects you can walk through and across. What on earth? What on earth are they trying to do? Apparently this strategy can have major benefits for our town and its residents. So how is improving the people of Chadderton North and Westwood to get about by foot or by bike going to have major benefits for the town? By improving our transport links and making it easy for people to get around, this will improve their chances of accessing learning and career opportunities. Accessing learning and career opportunities. Just where do they find this garbage? Where did they find this garbage? Indeed, Paul. So their plans are to make Oldham the greenest borough in Greater Manchester. Remember, they have still yet to agree with us that the plans to build an incinerator taller than the Civic Centre are madness, and they will block them. What? I don't know. I really don't know, Natalie. I increasingly look at what they come out with, and it's just bullshit bingo. It's absolute bullshit bingo. And of course, it's a big thing. It will help to tackle inequalities. How the bloody hell? I'm not sure what the walking improvements are, by the way. I did go to Vegas once or twice, 3 times. Anyway, I've been to Vegas multiple times in my life. And they had these escalators that went along where you could just stand on them, and it took you, it had an escalator that went from one part of one casino to the next. Maybe they'll put an escalator along Middleton Road. So where the old NatWest Bank used to be, we can, I'll walk down there, and I can get one of those escalators like a travelator, and it'll take me all the way to Tesco. Maybe that's what they're planning. Oh. Of course, Ellie. And across the entire town, there's some lovely walks. This is just nonsense. I think what they want to do is put some cycle lanes in. They're going to mess about with the roads, put some cycle lanes in, charge hundreds of thousands of pounds, fleece the money, and I'd like to know who in Westwood and who in Chadderton North. And isn't it strange that 2 communities that we traditionally treated separately are now being combined as one after the OBA cartel expanded from Coldust into Chadderton North and Jim McMahon took up residence? residency in Chadderton Town Hall. Yes, you should be worried. Apparently I'm a racist for bringing it up. I'm not a racist for bringing it up. I'm a concerned member of the public. I've seen what they've done to coal dust, and I'd hate for it to happen anywhere else. Come on, Paul. You know what jobs they're creating. In fact, I'll tell you about the jobs they're creating. I have brought to your attention on multiple occasions my genuine concerns of the employment conditions of people in coal dust, in cartel run businesses, how they're paid cash in hand, how they're paid below minimum wage, how in return for jobs they've got to deliver postal votes, hand over postal votes, etc, etc, etc. I have friends of mine who worked in the Indian restaurant Indish. Now, I know I had a problem with one of the guys who works there, and I do believe he's a racist and he's still there, but this is by the by. I had friends of mine who spent many years working in Indish. They are honest, decent, hard-working family men. They pay their taxes. And whatever they earn, they take home and use it to raise their children. Now, Indish has a relationship. My understanding is the Labour Party have done a number of fundraisers at Indish. My friends who worked at Indish were put on furlough. And then told that the furlough payments hadn't come through. And for months they lived off next to no income whatsoever. They had pay slips. They'd been paying their taxes, or so they believed they'd been paying their taxes for a number of years. And the owners of Indish, who, by the way, if you ask for a VAT receipt, will write the VAT number on a scrap of paper and hand you over a VAT receipt, have conned my friends out of their furlough payments. And I've looked at the paperwork and I can only come to one of two conclusions. One is they've took the furlough payments for themselves. Or two, my friends were getting fake pay slips where they'd been led to believe they were paying tax and national insurance when they hadn't been. And my understanding is this pattern has been played out across many of the cartel-owned businesses. And these people have nowhere to run, nowhere to turn to. We know the police are bent and in the hands of these politicians. And we know the politicians, particularly the Labour Party politicians, and their reliance on these business owners who have access to substantial numbers of votes. So, if you eat in Indish, maybe you can ask them where all the old staff have gone and what happened to their furlough payments. Ordinarily, the MP, these people would be able to go to the MP and the MP would take on casework and represent them. That's what ordinarily would happen. You don't understand, Sue. I know what they need to do. But these people live in a parallel system where if they go to the appropriate authorities and they already are fearful of these appropriate authorities, thinking that they won't back them because they're bent, there will be consequences for them and their families. They're stuck. And hundreds of them are stuck. But AROOJ wants to tackle inequalities and thinks by improving people's ability to walk from one place to another. I'm not sure how that translates or what that translates into. There will be more jobs. She wants to, and I quote, encourage people to cut the number of car journeys they make, helping them cut pollution and freeing up road space for essential travel. So I get the impression from all of that, she wants people to walk to work or ride a bicycle to work. And she wants people who already live in overcrowded houses, who work 12, 16-hour shifts a day on their feet, physically, manually exhaustive work, to find somewhere to put a bicycle in the house, in an already overcrowded house, or several bicycles. And then after doing a shift, sometimes finishing at 1, 2 in the morning, because that's when some of these restaurants and places that the catering industry places close and they're finished work. She wants them to ride a bicycle home or walk home. This is another harebrained idea from someone in Didsbury, and whilst it might work in Didsbury or Charlton, in the working class town of Oldham, I can't see someone riding a push bike with some flowers arranged on around the handlebars, can you? Nah. Apparently she's got a car. Someone sent me a photograph. In fact, it was Debbie Barrett-Cole who sent me a photograph of a car outside, now not Gelato's, but the Mocktails bar, Mocktails 24, and there's a scandal there, which I will do a one-off on. So, yeah, there's something there. Okay, let me carry on. So this is where Sean Fielding works. He works for this company, Berg, or BCG. But it's the last sentence you want to look at. They've taken him on because of his previous employment involving engaging directly with stakeholders and communities on contentious issues. He didn't do a very good job of it, did he? But that's why they've took him on. But the last sentence says it all. He appreciates the importance of tailoring messaging for different audiences and the value of identifying local advocates as part of campaigns seeking to corral support for planning and investment proposals. Remember, this is a Labour Party former leader. They've took him on because of who he can phone up and speak to. Identifying local advocates. That's not my words. That's the words on his bio with his new employers. He's gone and sold himself as someone who can make deals happen for private sector businesses. Clearly with public sector clients. Which brings me on to what Paul Boots has exposed himself this week. Paul, if you're around, by all means give me a call and you can tell your story yourself. If you phone me, I'll put you on the speaker and you can tell the story yourself rather than me try and retell it on your behalf. But what Paul's uncovered is devastating. And it's not something he's uncovered off his own back. This is information that senior sources in the Civic Centre have been leaking him on the hope that it gets out to members of the public. That's how bad it's got in the Civic Centre. Senior sources in the Civic Centre are leaking information, trying to get it out so the townsfolk become aware or are more aware of the dodgy deals that are repeatedly taking place. There's a council officer who's destroyed Wigan or helped destroy Wigan and brought in a private sector partner who found itself in receipt of millions of pounds worth of contracts for God knows what. By the time they got rid of her, it was all of a mess. And in a predictable pattern, she rocks up in Oldham, repeats the same Pied Piper nonsense she sold in Wigan of a town centre regeneration, brings in the same team of private sector partners who are subcontracted or contracted to deliver essential consultancy services. And the figures racked up to just under £1 million. Just under £1 million for God knows what. This is a council on the verge of bankruptcy, brings in another dodgy public sector senior whatever. Now we don't know who's signing off these checks. Here's Paul. How you doing, Paul?
I'm fine, thank you, Roger. Just watching the show now.
You'll have to turn that thing off at your end, Paul.
Yeah,
or is it okay?
I just have done. I got sent at the Blue on the 9th of September. Well, you obviously know that I emailed all 60 councillors when I applied for the vacant post of CEO. Came up with Oldham Council. I said I could do it for 50% of the cost, which I'm confident I could have done and delivered far better than what Carolyn Wilkins had done. I mean, she was on secondment for 11 months of the past 12 months, and I cannot see any witness of what business she brought into the town or investment brought into the town. And so when she did resign or get pushed, whichever the case may be, I threw my hat in the ring and I thought, right, I'll step up and I'll apply for the post and I'll send an open and transparent and honest email to all 60 councillors, which I did, which was on the 2nd of August. Following sending that email, I started to get responses and entered into dialogue into probably 12, 14 councillors, some of which were senior Labour councillors who later told me that they'd been told in no uncertain terms that they had been whipped not to speak not only to me, but to any member of Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth. I queried why. The responses alarmed me, being so much that they said they were frightened of being caught speaking to me. And I said, could you elaborate on the fear? And the fear was very real. They were scared, and they are scared of being caught speaking to me.
So let me stop you there for 1 second, Paul. I know firsthand that before the deputy leader who's just gone, whatever her name was, she had launched an investigation into councillors wanting to take their phones off them and digital devices to check if they'd been talking to me or you or people like us. So there was an internal... I am being called off different numbers, and I'm being emailed off different email addresses. Yeah.
I got phoned up on the morning of the 7th of May to let me know who was going to be the council leader, and the person who told me, the senior member of the Labour Party, and that person was not happy with that decision. But again, they've asked that they remain anonymous, and you know that I've not sort of disclosed their details even internally with Proud of Oldham myself, and I won't. For me, credibility is sacrosanct, and private and confidential is sacrosanct. So when I got an email telling me that this chap called Peter Holbrook had resigned, I have never heard of Peter Holbrook, and I took a phone call. So Peter Holbrook resigned around about 1 o'clock on the 9th of September. I found out by 3 o'clock the same day that he'd resigned. 2 councillors, or 2 members of the council, contacted me to let me know what had happened. And to both of them, I asked who was he? And apparently he's the guy that's employed to ensure that the £35 million that the central government has actually given to Oldham Council to try and balance the north and south divide, that there was no conflict of interest in its spending. And he had a conversation with AROOJ, SHAH, and
I've just put the email up. Yeah.
And and subsequently he resigned with immediate effect. Now this guy, I then looked into him, cracking CV, seemed to be a genuine article. I've read up on him. He's got CBE. Seemed a very, very capable guy. And my alarm bell started ringing. Well, who's in charge of this £35 million? If the guy that was nominated to be in charge of it, has now resigned with immediate effect, having to have a conversation with the AROOJ, SHAH. And so I would like to believe Jim McMahon.
He was in the room at the same time. So Jim McMahon, my information is he was in the room at the same time.
I have been told by there's 2 that I'm speaking to regular at the moment, and of course they will remain anonymous for reasons that are blatantly obvious. Frightened.
So these are councillors. These are councillors that are frightened. Yes.
Correct. There's councillors and senior members of the council
who are frightened.
So I've got it's quite frightened. They're frightened of being caught. So they're speaking to me from different mobile numbers, and I'm getting email from different email addresses. So because their email addresses and their mobile numbers, they are frightened that they're going to get caught out on those phone numbers. I also on I got asked when I received it on the 9th of September. I made a phone call and I was asked not to publish it. So I didn't publish it. So, you know, I was respectful of what I was asked to do. I didn't publish it. And then I got contacted out the blue by a chap called Gary Lease, who I'd never heard of. And Gary, unfortunately, sent me pictures of unsanitary conditions he was living in. The water was dirty.
I saw that.
The drains had burst.
Yeah.
And I put the post up, and I'm not judgmental of people. I mean, the guy's disabled. He's down on his luck.
It was awful. It was awful. It was painful to read and painful to watch.
He was acting, in my view, desperation. He was impersonating a council officer to the housing association. He got caught guilty of it, and they sent him to prison. I was just, you know, flabbergasted that it shouldn't have happened in the first place. I posted this up, posted pictures up. Now 3 police officers came to arrest him and charge him. And I'm thinking, why are 3 police officers turning up on a disabled man's door? You know, who's sort of, you know, he's not an immediate threat to the general public, as you weren't when 6 police officers turned up at your door. Again, absolutely incredulous what's going on with Greater Manchester Police. But following the publication of me publicising what had happened to Gary Lees, I took a phone call. Again, out the blue, about 3:30 that afternoon. And the person who provided me that email from Peter Albrook said, publish it. And I said, look, are you sure? Are you 100% sure you want me to publish it? I won't. I'll keep you anonymous, but, you know, you do realise that as soon as I publish this, you know, people are going to know that, you know, I am being supplied information from very senior sources. I published it. Obviously, it went around like wildfire. My phone rang off the hook for about 2 days. I had a number of Labour councillors who were not associated, 3 or 4 of which were making accusations that it was Steve Hewitt. And I said, well, you need to do your own work because Steve Hewitt hasn't got access to what I'm now being provided. I said, you're talking absolute nonsense. I said, I know you've had a fallout with him, but it's not Steve Hewitt. He hasn't got access to the information I'm being provided. The following couple of days, some more documents arrived. Again, I read the documents and somebody rang me up and said, do you want to know what really happened with Spindles? And they said, have you heard of Emma Barton? And I said, who's Emma Barton? Who the heck is Emma Barton?
I wrote about her once last year, the year before. She was involved in something dodgy.
I've never heard of her, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you know, and then I took another phone call within the hour of somebody else, again within the Labour Party, saying you need to look into CBRE.
Yeah.
And I said, who is CBRE? So I'm getting 2 lots of information coming through. You know, first of all, there's this Emma Barton, then there's this CBRE, and all of a sudden I'm sort of getting two lots. I'm kind of putting them together, thinking, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Now, Emma Barton had bought, or was part of director of Wigan Council, had been involved in buying a basket case at the shopping centre, town centre in Wigan. She then employed CBRE, which is a consultant, paid them
from America.
Massive fees.
This is an American company, yeah?
Yeah, there's an American company, made massive fees. I mean, you know, 2, 3, 4 years have passed. The Wigan people are absolutely up in arms right now. They've signed a 5,000 plus petition against, you know, the catastrophic devastation that this has left behind to the people of Wigan, who are, you know, absolutely distraught that they've been lied to, they've been deceived, they've been left with this mammoth bill and a huge white elephant. Wigan Council eventually parted company with Emma Barton and CBRE, and where does she pop up? Oldham Council on January 2019. Shortly after her engagement as Economic and Regeneration Officer Director, she appointed CBRE, or so is led to believe that she appointed CBRE. And of course, I then asked, who was CBRE? Looked into them. They're a multi-conglomerate international consultancy company. And in the middle of a pandemic, I didn't really see that consultancy was something that Oldham Council were in desperate need of. But the Tommyfield Market asked for a bit of a rent and rates holiday, given the fact they could not open the stalls to make a living. And Sean Fielding then announced through the BBC that they needed the money for the rent, to keep Oldham Council going. And that proved to be, and to coin a phrase, first lies.
I've just put up a photograph. Put up a photograph of Emma.
If you zoom in on a name card, it says Wigan Council, but it's not. That was when she was at Wigan Council, but I've never heard of the lady. And then there was another guy that whose name come up, and I was like, who the heck is he? He started up a company. He was former CBRE employee. He's opened up a company, and she's employed him as well. And I think he's got £110,000 paid by Oldham Council. And I think CBRE have had £890,000 or something paid by Oldham Council during lockdown, during sort of this, supposed pandemic, when they can't afford to pay and give a break, a rent and rates rebate, a break holiday to the traders of Tommyfield Market. It just, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked.
I'm bringing up right now the figures.
Yeah, I mean the people who told me, as I say, who I'm in dialogue with at the moment.
What's that? 950 grand, isn't it? Just under £950,000, so that we know.
Yes. And if you ever look at the company, Hive Projects Limited, the director of that was a former director with CBRE Limited. So if you look at down at those figures, I mean, some of them are like,
Paul
as
Roberts.
an example.
Paul Roberts.
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the figure, I think second from the bottom there, Roger, or bottom, if you zoom in again, that's a Paul Roberts. Yeah, he's a director. But some of the figures are just mind-boggling.
So £92,400 for a redevelopment programme manager at Spindles.
Yeah. Look at this, £31,500 for a Spindles programme manager.
Yeah.
It's like, what? It's like programme review, property programme review, second from the top, I think it is.
104 grand.
103. Yeah, 104,000. It's like, hang on, what are you doing? Valuation of SHAH pallets, £5,500. Corporate estate assets rationale, £31,343.
£170,000 professional fees for asset management.
Yeah, what assets are there? I mean, all they needed to do is I
could have sent a kid round with a flip chart, with a clipboard.
He hasn't got an asset. I mean, the irony, when you look at British home stores, it was sold for £1. It was sold for £1 because the ongoing costs were that large. It wasn't a commercial interest to anybody who knew anything about running shopping centres. So it was actual market value was £1.
So
now,
let me get this right.
Value.
Let me get this right. Sorry, and I'm just going to bring myself back up on the screen, Paul, because I think it's important. I think it's important we convey this to the people who listen to us in as clear language as possible. Okay, what we've got essentially are whistleblowers at the most senior level in Oldham Council, multiple ones, including senior council officers and elected politicians who are contacting us regarding this company and the relationship of a senior council officer with this company, and the documents that they've leaked us, because these documents they've leaked us, so you can see clearly, demonstrate just shy of £1 million paid out. And the pattern we have here in Oldham is almost identical to the pattern that took place in Wigan beforehand.
Correct.
This, you know, so when whistleblowers, high-level whistleblowers get this information out to you, to me, because they know what we do, it is so that we can communicate with the people of our town. We can share this information, look them in the eye and ask them, is this a sign? Is this another sign of corruption in this town? Is this another sign of bent public officials? What is going on here? Paul, what's going on here?
How can they pay, how can they pay £1 million of Oldham Council's money?
No, of your money, not Oldham Council, of taxpayers' money. Yeah,
the taxpayers' money to a company that's based in the United States of America with a consultancy fee, you know, which wasn't a critical need at the time during a pandemic. You've got to ask yourself, why didn't they support Tommy Field market traders at the same time, but instead they didn't? They paid it to an overseas company based in the United States, just shy of £1 million. The consultancy fees to tell them that Spindles, in effect, is a basket case. Now, I've been sent some other documents.
Now it reads, or it suggests worse to me, Paul. Because in the spaces I occupied where this took place, the purchase of Spindles now looks like some racket through which to extract more public sector funds.
Correct. I think it's good. I think it's. I mean, first of all, you know, our town, you know, we're a northern industrial town. The people of our town are not stupid. Many things, but I mean, there are a lot of people who've got a lot of common sense in Oldham, and there are a lot of good people in Oldham, and I just genuinely feel heartbroken that the people of Oldham and Saddleworth and the Oldham Borough, and I mean all the 20 wards, were being fleeced. We're being absolutely took to the cleaners. We've got senior council officials who are contacting me, one of which proclaimed that they were, when they read the thing, what kind of was a catalyst for them telling me to publish was the article I published on Gary Lease. So it kind of, it struck a chord with them, and they said, I didn't think there'd ever be a day that I would, the word that I'm ashamed of what the Labour Party has become, and particularly in our local town. And I pose the question, you know, if you're ashamed of what you've become, you know, why are you still there? You know, why are you still in them? And the response was, they were frightened. And I just shook my head and thought, you know, what is happening to an healthy democracy? Why can't you have an healthy debate about, you know, topics that are in the interest of the town for all of us? You and I, Roger, you know, we want the same thing. We want to get to the same place, you know, for our generation, for future generations. We just want to make Oldham a better place for our children and grandchildren. And that's all of us. That's all the wards. And there's some people within Oldham Council that seem to be just sabotaging those efforts.
They're not sabotaging. They're actually. It's not sabotaging, Paul. What they're doing is they are. Your earlier term was right. They are fleecing us. They are stealing from us. That's what's taking place here. This is theft, Paul. This is nothing other than theft. You know, like when a senior council official leaks you paperwork to show you £1 million worth of spending, that's an act of desperation. It means the conversations have took place internally and no one has had the courage or the conviction to tackle it head on. And I saw something you posted on that thread, because I followed that thread, Paul, and I read it with astonishment. Again, I read it with astonishment. And the question you asked was, who was signing this expenditure off?
Well, like I said, I'll go back to my opening comment. You know, on the 7th of May, the day after the election, you know, I got a phone call informing me, before the Oldham people had been informed, that the decision had already been taken regarding who was going to be the next council leader. And there was a lot of speculation. I know you sort of put a post up about, you know, the information you'd had. You have different contacts than I've got. But I was told literally the following morning, you know, what the decision were. And the people who were telling me the decision were, they were cheesed off about it. They didn't think it was the right appointment. You know, you've gone from like, the general consensus was with the people who were speaking to me, is like, you know, out of the pot into the fire. And, you know, I've got absolutely nothing at all against AROOJ SHAH. I don't know her. I'm just thinking from a positive PR point of view, what have we got to do to try to get Oldham to go forward and have a better impression nationally? Because right now,
no, just hold on. It's now no longer nationally. An American friend of mine contacted me today. AROOJ, the vigilante street patrol, Dale Cregan's getaway driver leading vigilante street patrols, has made newspapers in the United States, Paul.
Wow, I didn't know that. I mean, as you know, I was in London last week, and I was talking to a pal of mine who's in politics. Happens to be a senior member of the Conservative Party. Knocks about with a couple of MPs down there, and the conversation, they're certainly looking at Oldham with bewilderment at the moment of what is going on. And I was sort of saying, you know, it's a shame, because Oldham has got so much potential. We really could sort of turn things around. And it's a case of, you know, with the reason Proud of Oldham and Cllr came into existence was, you know, the three main parties, your Lib Dems, your Labour and your Conservatives, this last 30 years, they've fallen asleep at the wheel. And what's taken over, you know, is dreadful. It's just catastrophic for the town. Look in every ward. I mean, when I went speaking down in Featherstone Road, and there was I was only the white person in the room, and I got treated with respect. You know, there were people asking questions, and my question to the people who were in that room is, you know, what is a council? You've been very loyal with your vote this last 3 decades, but is your ward a better place? Have your children got more job opportunities? And I said, I recognise a couple of people in this room, because you used to work at British Aerospace at Greengate, Chadderton. I worked there when I was doing maintenance for Dune Group. So I don't know your names, but I recognise your face. And they nodded. I said, well, that's shut now. There were 12,000 jobs lost. I said, I know a couple of faces in this room as well who drive taxis, because you picked me up. Very pleasant people, hard-working people. I said, why is Oldham Council spending £44,000 a month with Mosley cars? Why are they spending it with taxi cars and people like you in Oldham? And same with catering. The month previous to me turning up to that meeting, Oldham Council had spent £150,000 with a company in Preston and a company in Bristol.
Yeah. And
I said, look at the catering companies that we've got in Oldham. Why aren't they engaging with catering companies in Oldham? And the people in the room, I got phoned up by that night, because I knew a couple of lads in that room personally, personal friends of mine who I see quite a lot of. And one of them rang me up and said, and you know my nickname's Boots, and they said, you know, flipping out Boots. So a lot of people, you know, I've caused a lot of conversation. But the thing is, will it convert to votes? Because if people won't vote these people out, we're going to be stuck in a status quo here. You know, it really is that desperate.
Well, it's worse, isn't it? Because it's now no longer about not voting these people out. These people are expanding into new areas. You can see the Chadderton expansion for yourself, Paul. They've took over.
Yeah,
They've took over Chadderton North, and now they're walking around Chadderton South. You know, brazenly walking around without. You know, what you've got on one hand is a leader of the council who talks about misogyny, who talks about the need to promote equality, and then pretty much the entire team from the Labour Party out campaigning in Chadderton South are made up of Asian men. It's just, you know, I know I took the piss earlier, Paul, but it concerns me, and not only does it concern me, Paul, what you've also got here is in the background, and my Labour Party friends are telling me, my decent Labour Party friends are telling me, they want nothing to do with these people. They won't go out and campaign with them. They won't go out and knock on doors with them. And what they've now resorted to is bringing in nutters from places like Liverpool on the pretense that they're here to fight the far right.
Well, I mean, I'm still looking around for the far right. I can't.
Well, I was in Royton on Wednesday or Thursday. I went to Royton, wandered around the market, Paul, got wet, had a coffee, chatted to a few people, because the Labour Party had sent a specific delegation into Royton to fight the far right. I didn't find a single person who even looked at me twice. Paul, never mind, do or say anything.
Well, I've lived in Oldham all my life, and I've been quite fortunate. I mean, I know a lot of people. I mean, I went to school in St Albans, I went to Clarksfield, Oldham College, and I've knocked about all different areas of Oldham. You know, when I was campaigning, I went into Cloddy, Werner, Featherstall Road, I went down Colders, SHAH, I went everywhere. Nobody gave me any racist abuse. You know, I got none.
At best, they've exaggerated it. At worst, they've fabricated it, Paul. But Paul, whilst I've got you on, let me bring up a couple of things, and you can share your views and opinions on it, because I know you have them on these issues. So let me bring something up.
Yeah, by the way.
This one first. GMP are actually worse. So the special measures has got worse. They've now been warned, the inspector has now issued a public statement that the public safety is now at risk. So my issue here, Paul, is, and you know my opinions on how GMP have treated me, so this isn't about me. But my issue here now, Paul, is ordinarily, when an inspectorate issues statements like this, very serious, concerns, it makes the national newspapers, it makes the local newspapers. The list of what's gone wrong is horrendous. Andy Burnham's at the top of it, and because of that, not a single Labour Party politician, the leader of the town, any of the MPs of the town, are questioning or advocating on behalf of the people of the town, because they are putting their party first.
Yeah, well, you look at sort of the record this last 5 years or 6 years. I don't know if you recall, Roger, in history, and it was a really infamous saying, and I think it was John F. Kennedy, the United States President. He had a sign on his desk, and it said, "The buck stops here." And it means if you're head of an organisation, you take responsibility. You know, the buck stops here. And you've got to look, if an organisation is failing, and it's catastrophically failing, who is the head of the organisation? Who's in charge of it? The Chief Commissioner of Greater Manchester Police is Andy Burnham. Now, Andy Burnham is a Labour lover. Again, I don't know him personally, so I've got no axe to grind from on a personal basis, but on a professional basis, a police force that he is the Chief Commissioner of has lost 80,000 crimes in 1 year.
Well, it's
in
worse.
1 year.
Andy Cook, the Inspector of Constabulary, said he was deeply concerned that GMP had consistently failed to make significant improvements in how it responds to vulnerable victims of crime. So what the data showed, Paul, wasn't just a number, but the ones that they failed most were actually the most vulnerable in our society. So it wasn't they were just losing crimes, they were losing crimes or ignoring crimes committed against the most vulnerable in our society.
Well, I had a meeting with a chap. I know you're not keen on him, Josh. Yeah, I was sort of sat down with him. I had an hour with him, and he mentioned sort of about do you think, what's your opinion on whether it's true about child grooming? I said, Joshy, you've got a mobile phone on you right in front of you. I said, just Google Operation Augusta on your own phone. So just Google it and look for yourself what the report says. They let 90 known paedophiles go. I said, if you want to look into Oldham, I said, go on to Magdalena's site. I said, since I've been sort of campaigning this last 18 months, I must have had 50, maybe 100 people who have been victims of grooming contact me and tell me the most awful stories, and they just don't trust the police, the council, or the supposedly authorities who are supposed to be looking after them. Let me just finish the point, Raj. Let me just finish the point. And I said to Joshy, just Google on your mobile phone right now. I was sat here, 15-year-old girl, DNA raped in Oldham. And it tells a story, and it just comes up on your phone, on your mobile phone, of a 15-year-old girl who got raped by an older man. She went to the police station. They took her DNA. It's a humiliating experience. A young girl like that who's vulnerable. They took her DNA. They did not even go and interview a rapist, and they lost the DNA. Now that's anybody who's watching your program right now, they could pick the mobile phone up and they could Google that for themselves. It doesn't need me and you to tell them this. It's out there. They already know. There's 500 and odd been prosecuted in Oldham. Already, it's out there. Them are the police figures. To deny it's going on is absolute nonsense.
Well,
nonsense. And now they're on about debating. Now they're on about debating the actual investigation. Well, usually what a debate consists of, the Oldham Council, they read from pre-prepared scripts. There's no debate. It's a statement, and that's it. End of.
No, it's worse. So, isn't it? I mean, it's worse. What they're doing, what they're now involved in, and I think it's clear to me is how to cover up the cover-up. And one element of how to cover up the cover-up is to attack and discredit those who raised concerns in the first place. Which is why after he spoke with you, regardless of what you shared with him, Joshy Herman from the Mill ran with a headline that I'd been arrested. So irrespective of what conversation he had with you, his interest was to run with a headline that I had been arrested. So what they're involved in, or what they're trying to do, is cover up the cover-up. And they cover up the cover-up by, first of all, attempting to discredit those who are leading the campaign for what is essentially truth and justice in our town, Paul. And the second thing is, what's increasingly coming clear is Howard Sykes and AROOJ SHAH are having secret conversations of how to manage this fallout, this report, so they can smooth it over. So I think these are this whatever's come out in the newspapers of he wants a debate. It's absolute nonsense. It isn't the conversation we should be having, Paul. The conversation we should be having is that the same as with Operation Augusta, Ridgway and Newsman present their findings. People like you and me, victims, witnesses, can turn up and listen to them. And these findings are shared with the people of the town at the same time as councillors. And what I've been told is that the council already has a date for the end of November when councillors will be told of the findings of the report 24 hours before the report is published. And then what they want to do, Paul, is stage manage how it's handled and hope it all goes away. And like you said, it will involve AROOJ SHAH standing up in council with a scrap of paper and going, lessons have been learned.
This lessons in learned speech is wearing a bit thin, because each time we have a catastrophe, epic proportions, you get the likes of sort of Andy Burnham and Jim McMahon standing up and saying lessons should be learned. It's like, well, how many times are you going to make this speech? You're looking right now at quite a sizable number of people in each ward, and they're seeing through it. I mean, take for example the email that was sent to Jim McMahon from Kevin Fitzpatrick. I had that email in my possession for probably a year, and much to my shame, I didn't read the paragraph that was probably the most important paragraph that people should be made aware of. It was the Asian community that said we had a problem with grooming cartels in Oldham. It weren't no far-right racial. It was the Asian community.
And my information now is
to get out there.
And my information now is the Asian community were whistleblowing in the same way these council officers and councillors have been whistleblowing to you, because they had nowhere else to get. They could not get this out any other way, so they were desperately whistleblowing. And the information I'm being fed, Paul, and I'll wait to see if it comes through in the report by Newsman and Ridgway, is that these shisha bars, at least one of them, was owned by a councillor.
I have been offered, Roger, and it's not one, it's not two, it's multiple. Where on the topic of electoral fraud, I have had offers from members of the Asian community to video those involved in it.
Yeah. And
to each one of them, I've asked them not to do. And the only reason I've asked them not to do it is because if there's any ramifications on the people videoing, if they do indeed get attacked or the family gets attacked, I'd feel responsible for it.
Well, you just heard you just heard what I've said about the restaurant Indish. I've got the pay slips in my hand. I've sat in places where my friends have cried, Paul, because they couldn't feed their families. Their furlough payments were kept from them, and then they were told there was no furlough payments. Now, you and I know the government paid furlough to everyone on payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can't go anywhere. They can't do anything because of how powerful these people are. This town is run by mobsters. This town is run by mobsters.
Well, as I said, the documents I've had passed over to me are very, very senior members of the Labour Party. And I'd never heard of these people. I'd never heard of Peter Holbrook. I'd never heard of this lady from Wigan. I'd never heard of CBRE. But not only did they tell me the names, they provided me all the documentation.
Why do you think Holbrook stepped down with immediate effect? You're a high-level executive. That only happens in rare circumstances.
Well, I mean, the actual, when you look at some of the, honestly, I don't know where to start, but I'll start somewhere. Let's take the eco centre as an example. We don't need an eco centre. You've got the potential of spending 100 million on something the town doesn't need. They're trying to recreate something that they are destroying in Chariton. Look at the building site they put it at Chariton right now, which the locals are fuming over. You look at Save Shaw Greenbelt, Shave right and Greenbelt. You know, I got involved in Save Our Valleys. You know, you've got planning going all over the Greenbelt, all over. So they're actually destroying the natural eco centre and then deciding they want to spend £100 million to recreate something that they're destroying. It's insane. It's absolute fiscal insanity. So anybody with any modicum of sense would look at that as a project and stare at the people in the room and think they were from Pluto. It would be like, what are you thinking?
I've got something better. I've got something better for you. I have got something better for you. Right. So the eco centre, yeah, I get you. I agree with you, and it's a farce. But you ready for this? Let me bring something up. AROOJ SHAH has created something called an Oldham Poverty Truth Commission. It's a year-long project to explore poverty in Oldham.
It's something like I think a magazine that would be appropriate for really displaying what AROOJ SHAH is saying there would probably be something like Viz magazine. It could do a sketch on Oldham Council, and people who are like comedy would say, no, it's too far-fetched. I mean, the concept of it is just mind-boggling. They can't attract any private investment. They've spent $9.5 million on a basket case of a shopping centre. They're having a debate that they're going to spend $68 million. I think January 2020, there was this big announcement that we're going to spend $306 million. And I'm thinking, where's all this money coming from? You know, you're paying $34 million a year in interest alone of ratepayers' money. Well, we're already in the highest bracket there is.
So for context, that's neat. Council tax income is just over $100 million a year. So they're paying close to 40% of our income out. Just on interest payments.
On what they've borrowed already. They've got no plan.
Well, they have a plan. The plan is a Labour government that will just bail them out and give them some money. That's no plan to keep going. It's
not going to happen, though, is it?
It's like my plan to win the lottery. You know, I think I put £2 on the Euro Millions on Friday, Paul, and I think I've got just as much chance of winning that as a Labour government bailing out this lot.
But it saddens me really to see what the Labour government's become. I mean, from its founding fathers, what it was supposed to represent, to what it's become now. I've voted Liberal, Tory and Labour, both locally and nationally in my life, and I don't like any of them. Hence, ended up sort of, founding Proud of Oldham and Salworth. I don't believe in the whip. You stand for an area, you stand for the people in it. Not for some party. But let's just take the Labour Party for a moment.
You can have it. You can have it, Paul.
Scotland.
You can have it.
Yeah, I know. You look at what. Well, let's look at it as a feasible option. Or its chances. They've blown it in Scotland. They've lost 56 seats in Scotland. They're not going to get back. They've totally abandoned the northern industrial towns that have absolutely wasted them at the polls. The only way they can ever form a government to be a coalition with the Lib Dems, because there's absolutely no chance of getting in. So the next 10 years, and I'm no fan of Boris. Boris not delivered, but the alternative, they can't even run their own party. They're imploding right now. You've got two factions of the Labour Party that are spending that much time kicking each other.
Momentum
they've not got their act together.
Well, let me bring something else up for you. There's a bloke called Lord Ashcroft, yeah. He does all the polling and stuff. So he's respectable. He's well regarded as an expert in his field. Lord Ashcroft produced a document not long ago on Keir Starmer. Now, remember when Keir Starmer got elected and he presented himself as a working class bloke who worked in a factory?
Yeah.
Yeah. It now transpires, and this isn't just me saying it, this is Lord Ashcroft.
Yeah.
One of Keir's faults, which has come out from time to time, is his wanting to insist how working class he is when he's absolutely plainly not, said Professor Bill Bowring, who teaches law at Birkbeck College, University of London.
So he's a fraud.
Let me just find the line.
I can see it. I'm reading it. It's
Rodney, who worked as a toolmaker in Ashford, Kent, and his bride took the advice seriously, blah, blah, blah. His family owned the factory.
Dear me.
In March 2018, Starmer told the BBC's Nick Robinson that his father was a toolmaker working in a factory and working every hour, basically. The following year, he told BBC Radio 4's Today programme that his father worked in a factory as a toolmaker. The inference that listeners might have drawn is that Rodney Starmer was employed by somebody else, yet the available evidence suggests this was not the case.
So they actually owned the farm.
His father, in fact, ran his own business, the Oxted Tool Company.
God blimey. Well, Keir Starmer, when he was appointed, I thought, given the issue that we've got with child sex exploitation, and he had his hands burnt very badly and was deeply involved with Jimmy Savile.
Whatever anyone says about the Jimmy Savile thing and him not being in charge, because I get my Labour Party friends say, no, he was at the top, he wasn't in charge. He, however, acknowledged that because he was in charge, he had ultimate responsibility, hence why he apologised for his failings. You don't apologise if you haven't done anything wrong, do you, Paul? So,
no.
And he's done the same again here. He's all over the place. But this is a bloke, Paul, ultimately, according to Lord Ashcroft, not me, and some professor from Birkbeck University, again, not you or I, he repeatedly inferred that his father worked in a factory, and now it turns out his father owned the factory.
Oh, dear me. I mean, is it any wonder that, people get so despondent with politics when, they're just lied to at this level? And I mean, by them all. I sort of got utterly despondent. The story when I was sort of having a conversation with Steve Hewitt, and I said, Steve, why do you keep voting these things through as a Labour Party? And he said, because you've got to follow a whip. So I said, explain to me a whip like you would a child. He said, if you're a member of any main party, if they've got a policy they want to pursue as a party, he said, they tell you as a member of that party, you've got to vote for it. I said, even if it means voting against what the people that voted you in want. He said, yes, but it's the same for the Liberals, the Tories and the Labour. I said, so if you, didn't agree with something the Labour was going to do, and you knew that the people voted you in didn't agree with it, they'd whip you to vote against your own constituents. Yes, that's what they all do. So I said, well, why don't you start a party with it that's got no whip? And his response to me was, why don't you? And that's where Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth was born. Because we're a party with no whip. I'm not interested in controlling councillors of different wards. If they want to stand up of any race, creed, colour, ethnicity, sexuality, as all I care about is, do you care about Oldham? Do you want a ward to be a better place? Will you fight for the people in that constituent? And if you would, talk to me. because that's the sort of person that's the sort of people we need in the council. I don't want a council that's got no vision. It's got no vision for the future. It's got no prospects for hope, investment, jobs, or a better town for us all. Right now, it's leading us down into a spiral of doom, and I don't like what they're doing. And I don't like what they're seeing.
It's attracted people who are like the leeches, Paul. You can see it. You know, they have no loyalty to our town. They have no connection to the place, and they're here to take as much as they can.
Well, I mean, you look at some of the hierarchies, pay scales. I mean, they're ridiculous. You know, how can you justify paying a CEO more than the Prime Minister? It's not. It can't be justified. I mean, if you go off sort of, you know, if it was down to performance, half of them would do us.
Yeah.
They'd be paying Oldham, you know, the people of Oldham back. But they've got the thing is they've got no plan at all to get out of debt. The plan is to borrow more money.
Well, the plan is to understand. The plan is at this moment in time to understand poverty better. The town's been poor for as long as I've been alive, Paul, and they've decided to set up a commission so they can understand poverty better. They don't
need a commission. I mean, if they want to give me a call and say that why is the town poor, it's because the Oldham Council have failed in attracting private investors in the town. Yeah. Why have we not got engineering companies beating a bat for our door? Yeah, we've got the motorway links. We're a northern industrial town. People in Oldham have been historically hard-working people. They'll knuckle in. You give them a job. You give them hope. Give them ambition.
Yeah.
They will deliver.
Yeah.
And Tommyfield, if Tommyfield were given any breathing space at all, if you turn around and give Tommyfield some rent and rates free for 3 years, our town centre would be booming.
Paul, as you've just demonstrated, they've just spent £1 million on management fees, because that's what that is, management fees. They've just spent £1 million on management fees to an American company.
Yeah.
They're not interested.
It shows that the people that we have at the top in Oldham.
Sorry, I've just lost Paul there, and that was my fault. I was... Sorry, Paul, I cut you off, is what I did.
Yeah.
I got a message through that the Truth Commission, the Poverty Commission, is a template lifted from the Black Lives Matters movement.
Oh, my God.
So I was reading that, and when I cut you off by mistake, because I was in just shock, because I didn't know. I don't follow that lot. I don't like that lot. And but it's a template from the Black Lives Matters movement. What on earth is going on in our town, Paul? Who has taken over? Who are these people? What are they doing to us?
Well, the drain in the town of all its natural resources. As I was saying, if you can't build a business from the top down. You've got to build any business. Every businessman will tell you it's from the bottom up. And if you get the Tommyfield market and give them 5-year rent and rates free, you've got no overheads. You can rock up with a stall there. You get 20 or 30 of the mates to come to the stall and support them. You get 10 more stalls on that market. That's 200 to 300 people. And the thing is, that is as simple as it gets.
They're not interested. Football. They're not interested. And worse than that, Paul.
I went round.
What was the truth? They hadn't been told. They hadn't been consulted. They weren't equal partners. They'd never asked. Anyone with any common sense can see that they're spinning a yarn. You know, the councillors are spinning a yarn. They are spinning. It's not a yarn, it's a lie. Yeah. I went round and I spoke I walked round Tommyfield and I spoke to people in the market, and I asked them, you know, what they wanted.
mean, I ended up sat in Sav's chippy. I was talking with Sav, and he said when they took half the market up and put it at a car park, they said they were going to give them some money from the car park. And what they wanted, the traders who were outside, can we have some canopies put up in between the stalls so that when the customers are shopping, just like in Bury, they don't get wet and go and walking in between stalls. So the market appeared, no canopy appeared. It's 2 days that they don't charge on the market where the car parking's free. Both them days the market's full. So, and you open a cinema up in the centre of town and then fine people for parking nearby. You know, they go over a certain limit.
I don't even knew, Paul. I don't even knew this about the cinema. You know, it's subsidised by the taxpayer, by the local taxpayer.
Yeah. And when that subsidy's finished, they've already given notice they're going to leave. So I've been told.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, it's 40 million quid. They're on about converting the inside of Spindles to some offices for Oldham Council. It's like, well, hang on a minute, you just spent 40 million quid on a town hall that is designed to act as a council. Why don't you just go in there, because that's about to empty as well, and sell Spindles to somebody who knows what they're doing? Give the town a break. I mean,
come on,
Tommyfield Market.
Paul, no one. Let's be honest. No one is going to buy Spindles. You'd have to give it to someone to make it work. They're not going to pay for it.
Well, the thing is, let's be honest. If you put that on the market and said, right, what is its commercial value, you'd find out what its real value was. And its real value, I would be surprised if anybody would give a quid for it because of its ongoing costs. And all this that AROOJ SHAH saying, well, the land's worth more. Again, that is it's deceiving people, because when you look at the demolition cost of actually dropping something like Spindles and the haulage fees and the dumping cost to actually clear it, it's more than the land's worth. Whichever way you look at it, they've bought a complete financial basket case, and they've had the same consultants employed that bought the basket case at Wigan Council. And take a look at Wigan Council, what's going on there, and the people there are absolutely fuming. They're up in arms. And that's 5 years on.
Paul,
where are we going to be in 5 years if we let the council carry on?
Because I'll tell you what, we're being lied to. Because what the redevelopment of Spindles ultimately is about is not about a shopping centre. It is about moving the civic centre into a new building. So they can knock down the civic centre, knock down Tommyfield, and build more social housing and raise more income. That's what it's ultimately about. So the shopping centre, they're not interested in Oldham retaining its market town history or anything. And what they've already got, and I've seen some of this already, Paul, is that the plans are that the council chamber will be where Debenhams was. They are already planning what they are doing, and this is the relocation of the civic centre into Spindles and making and having a 5-star fit out, whilst the town's on its knees, whilst hundreds of thousands of people are living in poverty. They are planning a 5-star fit out of new council offices and bugger the rest of us. Bugger the rest of us.
There's two-thirds of our children living in poverty. They're doing that.
Yeah.
Is it? You asked me a question earlier on, Roger. You asked me, in my opinion, why is Peter Holbrook resigned on the spot?
Yeah.
Having spoken to AROOJ SHAH, well, you've just answered it.
Yeah.
I can imagine somebody of Peter Holbrook's CV and his background and his experience and his expertise, he would listen to it for about 2 or 3 minutes, and I think he'd have the dawning realisation that he was talking to a bunch of clowns, because that is what he's faced with, a bunch of clowns. And to put his name to anything that they intended doing would basically be a black mark on his CV. He wouldn't want to be involved in something like that. Anybody of any credibility wouldn't. because you take a look at the plans and they don't make any commercial sense at all, which is it's quite sad because the people of Oldham and the ratepayers of Oldham are going to suffer, all tears. And, when I say tears, I mean tears as in levels and tears as in running down your face.
My information is that the man is very well respected in government, and he was brought in to secure the money because Oldham Council had previously failed to secure the money. Remember, they weren't bidding for this money, Paul. This money had already been ring-fenced for the Oldham, provided a viable business plan had been submitted. So Peter came in and led the team that produced a viable business plan. And as soon as they did get the money, you can see that what he had produced and led in an honourable way was not what the leaders of this town wanted to do. And he was not going to be in any way incriminated. I think that's
one of the people who contacted me said that the atmosphere towards Peter was unnecessarily hostile.
Yeah.
He said it's quite obvious they were hostile towards him. And I was again disappointed. I despair really at the direction that the council are taking us all in, and unless we can collectively get people to vote and say, look, we really need to change this, it's going to get worse. And I don't want to get to worse than that. I listened to Mark Ince early on. He's a real passionate guy.
He's a good lad, isn't he? He's a good lad, isn't he? He loves his town. He loves his town. He wants the best for his town.
He does. And Mark Birchall turned up to the meeting about the Eco Centre, and he asked the question of AROOJ SHAH. And Mark's a great lad. He's feet on the ground.
He's an engineer, isn't he? He's an ex-engineer, retired engineer. Yeah.
Fit now, have a shot. He loves the place. He's doing his best. And he must have asked 7 times, how many permanent jobs is the Eco Centre going to provide? And he said, well, we're going to take some youth offenders, and we're doing this. No, and we've got some beekeepers. And he's like, permanent. Every single time Mark asked, what permanent jobs are being provided? He got no confirmed answers. Yeah. So we're on about spending the best part of £100 million, and you can't confirm any jobs, guaranteed that's going to create. No.
I'm going to live off the phrase for another decade. Glamping in Glodick. Glamping in Glodick. Who on earth? And nothing against my friends in Glodick, and I do have friends in Glodick, because they will spit out their tea just as equally as the rest of us.
I spoke, and there's a couple of chaps in Glodick who I speak to from time to time. We just have a bit of a chit chat, and they are again in despair over what will be, their area will be messed up. There'll be wagons knocking about. There'll be people parking cars in front of their houses. It's not going to go down so well, and they don't want it. So the people I've spoken to, they don't want it. You actually go around and ask people and ask them their opinions of what they want. That is not what they want. What the problem we've got with this council, instead of asking the people of the town what they want and delivering it, they're telling them what they want and reading off pre-written lists.
Yeah.
And saying this is the before we even start this council meeting, these are pre-written statements that we're going to read off, and once we've read these statements, that's the end of the debate. So we're just telling you what you're having, not asking you what you want. We're telling you what you're having, and there ain't no debate. The debate's over. And why don't if they're going to use that method, why don't they just publish what they've written and then allow people to respond? When I asked the people at Summerfield, they turned around and they said an option of not moving to Spindles was not on that piece of paper that they received. And similarly, when the council sent about option about where they wanted houses, an option if they don't want any wasn't on that paper. It was all, it was weighted, a weighted sort of survey where people, you know, you tick these 4 boxes.
It's disingenuous consultation, isn't it, Paul? That's what it's disingenuous.
Absolutely. It's just weighted. It's just not asking people what they want. It's just saying, well, do you want this, this,
well,
and this?
It's what I keep saying,
I don't want any of that.
It's what I've said from the beginning. They take us for fools. They take us for fools. Yeah, well, Paul, it's come to 11:30 or past 11:30. I'm going to let you go because there's one last thing I want to do before I close up shop. Well, thanks for calling in, Paul, because I wanted the story from you because I read it and I'm like thinking, yes, it's true. But how it's come out is more important on this, actually, Paul. It's not that the bent. It's the fact that desperate councillors are coming forward with information. Desperate council officers are coming forward with information and leaking it to us to get into the public domain because they can see that this has to end. You know, and
let's pray it does. And all the best, Roger.
Best of luck tomorrow. Okay, good night.
Bye-bye.
Bit impromptu, that was Paul. There's about 50 of you left. There's it's well past 11:30. I am going to do on the members Facebook page, I think tomorrow, a Q&A. So the Q&A went well last time, I think. So to encourage some call-ins and stuff, I will do it on the members page next on Monday. So tomorrow night I'll do a Q&A on the members Facebook page. So the members Facebook page is available to all of you who are subscribers of the web page. So if you're a subscriber to the web page and you're not on it, just drop me an email in the morning and I will share it with you. The last thing I want to bring up, give me 1 second, is oh, you are at Mark Inches tomorrow, so I'll maybe do it on Tuesday night, the Q&A. I normally do it on a Monday night, but I can possibly do it on a Tuesday night, so maybe we'll do the Q&A on a Tuesday night, which will work, I think. Here we go. Mates with Mobsters is now at £920. So thank you very, very much to all of you who've contributed to that. I'm sure we'll get to the £1,000 stretch target. There's another 20 days left, so I'm sure others will donate. We're increasingly starting to get donations from people we've never heard of who are contributing towards this. So it's slowly and steadily creeping up, and my gratitude to crowdfunder who've allowed the campaign to take place. So there you have it. I've got so much more to get through, but I will have to do it another time. It's 20 to midnight, and I think that's the limit of my my candles are burning out behind me and my curtain. Yeah, anyway. So these are free to air transmissions. I try my best by them. They're only possible if people financially support me to keep the channel going. It's no more complicated than that. I'll keep going for as long as I can keep going. If I stop, it's because we've got to a place where it's just financially impossible for me to continue. The transmissions take 3 days, usually a bit longer to pull together, and that's separate to all the other work I do. I am grateful to all of you for bearing with me, staying on this journey with me, and hopefully we can get to a place where we take another important step in taking our town back, because that's what ultimately all of us want. This tyranny needs to end, and it's down to us, because no one else is going to come and do it for us. I think that's very clear by now. Very good night. Take care. Enjoy tomorrow.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.